What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out how not to get killed by drones. This is by CivDiv. We've checked out some of their channel, some of their videos on their channel not long ago, and they are really, really good. I think when we're talking about Ukraine and this modern way of combat, we've spoke a lot about drones. And obviously now that I'm not within the military anymore, right? I'm a veteran. I've never had to worry about this type of stuff. And so I find it fascinating how not only they are using it as an offensive, but how to defend against drones. So this is going to be a super interesting video considering this individual has the experience and knows what he's talking about. So we're going to break it down, we're going to have a look, and we're going to talk about it. As always, I will leave a link down below to the OG video. They are at 1.36 million subscribers. Let's bump that up. Head over there, give it a subscribe. All that good stuff, link down below. Before we get started, though, check out Chug, 10% off, link down below for the best drinking vessel in the world. These are phenomenal. Handmade here in the UK. They ship internationally, and they are absolutely brilliant. Free customization, free bag. You're not going to get a better deal anywhere else. 10% off, link down below. Also, if you didn't see, over the weekend, we finally released Morale. That's right. You can now buy Morale and drink it yourself. Well, if you're in the UK, you can. The drink is available in the UK. The clothing is available in the US and Canada. So, and the clothing is available in the UK as well. But you should check it out. Support the movement that we're doing. The whole idea of this is to get people outside as much as possible. So please go check it out. That's all I've got to say. Go to the website. Go to the Instagram. Don't follow if you're not into the outdoorsy stuff, don't follow the Instagram. I'd rather have 1,000 people who are legitimately passionate about this rather than 10,000 people who don't really care. And also, we are at, let me see real quick before we get started. Let me see, where is it? We are at 934 subscribers on the Drink Morale Instagram. Let's get it to 1,000, shall we? Anyway, let's shut up, let's pull this up, and let's see what they've got to say about not dying from drones.
How to counter
Oh my
drones
god, that's terrifying, isn't it? Because it's so hard to shoot.
Warfare. First step. Put up an umbrella. Believe it or not, umbrellas are kind of commonplace in a lot of infantry units. When they're making nighttime movements where thermal cameras can find them very easily, when you put up an umbrella, they can't see you anymore. Obviously, you want to put some camouflage on top. You maybe want to use different material, not something that's going to catch the heat like this is. But nonetheless, it's very effective as long as you put a little bit of time and effort into putting some brush on top and some...
What I think is interesting is a lot of these improvised solutions like this, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we're actually going to see highly detailed manufactured versions of them for the military. Like the military industrial complex will be looking at this and thinking, okay, they're doing all these things. We can make this better and more official and more, easier to carry, etc., etc. So you're going to start seeing people getting issued kit like this. I guarantee it.
Concealment. And not to mention, you can stow it away real quick. And going on with that, a scarf. Something I learned in Iraq, which was very useful for me in Ukraine, is putting a scarf over you. Not only is it gonna somewhat mask the thermal, at least for a short time being, but you can also see through it. I can see you. And what would this be handy for? Well, one thing about drones is that they're operated by a human looking at a screen, and humans were made to recognize other faces, whether it's an enemy or a friend. It's very human to catch on features that look like a face.
So this is a very simple lesson that you learn in the Royal Marines very early on is why things are seen, right? And the silhouette of an individual, like if you're scanning, and you can instantly pick up the silhouette of a person. It's within our nature, and so breaking that outline up is vital for camouflage. Breaking any straight lines up, just breaking it all up is very, very important. And so this is that concept, considering that you're going to be looking through the eyes of a drone, looking for that silhouette. Makes complete sense.
Hide your face with a scarf that you can see through still. You can look up at the sky and try and find that drone instead of letting them see your big oily face with two bright eyes. From the beginning of warfare thousands of years ago to today, the most lethal weapon on the battlefield still stands, a human. So all this machinery that we have, it was all built by a human, it is flown by a human for now, and the human mind continues to be the most powerful weapon on the battlefield, no matter what you face.
I agree with that. I also agree with that when we're going to start seeing more AI-powered stuff and AI stuff that's the AI's using to be, how can I explain this? Equipment that is being controlled by AI is what I'm trying to say. I have said this when we've talked about footage of aircraft and how we're starting to see more drones being incorporated instead of aircraft. And a lot of people are saying that the manned aircraft are going to be diminished and it's going to be mostly droned aircraft, AI-powered aircraft, especially in the UK, because we're seeing that new aircraft carrier that's specifically just for drones. I believe that human creativity can never be outmatched with AI. Personally, that's a more of a philosophical belief. And so the same applies here. A human can be incredibly creative with the way they work, and that will always outmaneuver AI, in my opinion. And so this is that same thing.
One is sewer systems. If the human mind just doesn't cut it, become a rat. Build yourself subterranean structures, whether it's tunnel systems, going through piping like the Russians do, to great effect, to be honest. Suja, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, all of them have examples of Russians using sewer systems to get behind the lines. And they work very effectively. And I would know that personally. Use subterranean as much as possible. Drones can't detect you there, they can't strike you there, and they can't find you. Think about Hamas. Still exists. The next one is weather. Obviously, the best use case for these drones is observation. The fact that
his gear's so good. Look at all them patches in the background. That's so sick.
they can recon an area and find you and then call in whatever they want.
Yeah.
They definitely know we're here.
So one way to avoid detection is to conduct your movements in the middle of a thunderstorm, in the middle of very dense rain or very dense fog, in the mornings, dusk, dawn. These are tactics that ISIS used to use back in the day. We used to call them thunderstorm assaults, where they would only go out of their tunnels when it was very rainy outside. And the same goes for us. We have to utilize the weather. And that kind of goes into daytime, night.
Well, I was literally about to say daytime, nighttime. This is a classic technique that's been used in the military for so long. Every time we were practicing raids and stuff like that in training, we would always make sure we did it super early in the morning before daylight breaks. It's that element of surprise, element of confusion for the person you're against, all of that stuff. That applies to a drone because it's human eyes through a drone, right? The moment you start applying the fact that that drone is actually human controlled and they've got eyes, like human eyes looking through it, you can still apply them same principles of element of surprise using the weather and the cycles of day and night to mask your movement and the element of surprise. It's always going to work no matter what.
Nighttime. Nighttime is usually the most lethal time to
I say it's always going to work. It's not always going to work. It's always going to be relatively effective. I think that's a better way of putting it.
be walking around, because of the thermal signature that you radiate, it's very, very effective, and it's very hard to mitigate, although I'm going to give you guys a couple examples of how. But one thing to keep in mind is that if you're moving during daytime, a typical surveillance drone like a Mavic 3 cannot use its thermal imagery when it's daytime. It will shut off that camera so the sun doesn't damage that lens. Now, there's some workarounds for that, but we do not use thermal during daytime. We're not even allowed to. We can't. Our machinery doesn't allow us to most of the time. I'm a big believer in daytime movements as opposed to night because of the thermal, but also nighttime, it complicates everything. Zeros, fives, 25s, trying to find mines, as well as the speed of the movement and the dependency on technology, like your NVGs that have batteries that can run out, or an accidental flashlight discharge, which will get everybody killed. The next thing you can do.
So this is something completely new that I'm not aware of. Like, they can't use that technology during the daytime, and so they're utilizing it in the opposite sense of what we did in the Marines of using nighttime as the element of surprise and cover. They're using it the opposite way, which is so interesting. This is the first instance in this video where we're seeing a complete shift in tactics because of these drones now. Absolutely phenomenal.
As an infantryman is anti-drone netting, which is very common all across the front line ever since the beginning of the war. You put netting in front of your bunker, that way the FPV gets caught on it, and it can't go inside the bunker directly and kill everybody inside. So put camouflage netting everywhere you can, not only to
Camouflage netting, he's got bright pink netting.
conceal yourself when you look outside real quick, or to conduct sills, or to prevent an incoming FPV that knows your location already. And the next one that's being used in Ukraine all over the place is a signal analyzer, where you have a device that recognizes when there is a frequency that's being emitted into the air. So one thing to know about an FPV is that it's got an omnidirectional antenna, which makes it so that the operator 20 kilometers away can still view the video feed from that drone, but yourself, you can also detect it. So tiny SAs will be able to detect that signal just as clearly as the operator 20 kilometers away. It's gonna give you an alert, let you know that there's something flying around on this frequency, and then you can call it into the bigger jammer networks and say, we have this frequency next to us. Is it friendly? No, jam it out of the sky. You understand?
Yeah, so that's the more technical jamming aspect of it, which is, again, completely new to someone like me, but it also makes complete sense. finding the vulnerability within that technology and using it against itself.
Overhead concealment and cover. Who would have thought? Forests, bunkers, houses, urban terrain especially. Concealment that he put over, netting or whatever it is. Yeah, that's gonna make it so that they can't find you. If they can't find you, they can't hit you. That's the big thing, is avoidance, early detection. Trying to be as invisible as possible to these drones that are trying to find you every meter of the battle space. And the next one is dispersion, because the odds are if you're making a big movement, they're gonna find you. They're gonna find you. So having a big machine gun line of 10 guys on a couple of 240s, it's kind of old school now. You're going to be found and you're going to be struck, and one FPV can take the entire team out. So it's important to have dispersion, whether you're in a patrol or in a static position where you don't have cover from an RPG. And kind of going on the structure of the bunker, you want to make sure that there's a zigzag entrance. So what that's going to give you is it's going to stop the FPV from entering right inside your building dodge. The blast as well as the shrapnel is going to hit the edge of it, and it's not going to be able to get in. Now it's time.
Yeah, just going back to the dispersion part, like that's something that we learned quite early on because we were specifically doing training in pre-deployment training for Afghanistan, where you don't, if someone stands on an IED, you want to be separate enough where the other lads are not going to get smashed for it, right? And so having that space between you is really, really important. So we kind of see this is like an evolution of that. Like I saw the first parts of that because of IEDs. Right? Like I saw the first bits of training with that, and now it's gone even further because of FPV drones, which is very interesting.
About kinetic ways, at least what you can do as a soldier, carrying with you a rifle and a shotgun. Well, a rifle is only going to be effective against a Mavic. I think we've seen plenty of videos of people trying to shoot down FPVs with rifles. I think it's about 1% of the time that it's actually effective. I know that firsthand from my team. So rifles are only for slow-moving, loitering Mavic drones. Mavic drones that are even 300 meters out. I've been able to hit one. I'm sure that anybody who has basic training would be able to do it. Iron sights, that's what I did it with. It's fairly easy as long as you have the training, the fundamentals of that rifle that you're using, and you have some training time with it. Now, for shotguns, it's a must-have for any environment where there's going to be FPVs. FPVs, it's very difficult to shoot down with a rifle. Very, very.
So we're seeing a movement of the type of ammunition used, the type of weapon used, because specifically of drones. For the most part, we were training that Point Man always had shotguns, right? We trained on the Benelli, which was such a cool weapon to shoot on. But that was mostly for being Point Man and entering rooms, etc., etc. Whereas now that is specifically being used for drones, and they're saying everyone should have one. Very interesting evolution and adaptation to this new type of warfare.
Just take my word for it. If you don't, look at the countless videos. They need shotguns, so you should have one at least in a team.
One at least.
Possible. Yeah, it's more weight. But if I was an infantryman in Ukraine, I would feel very weird about not having a shotgun that was readily available for myself, personally.
Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. If I was out there, I think I'd prioritize it, to be honest with you. Them drones are everywhere, aren't they? Like, we've seen the footage. We've watched the footage on CivDiv's channel. We've watched footage on United 24 and a bunch of other big YouTube channels. We know how much these drones affect missions. We know it. We've seen it on this footage. This guy's seen it in firsthand. And so, yeah, if I was out there, I'd prioritize it 100%.
At least for a movement, like a big patrol, yeah, I want a shotgun with me. The next one is camo up. When you're about to conduct a patrol, take the 10 minutes to stuff your gear and your uniform with as much brush around you. It takes 10 minutes, but it does such a good job at masking yourself from daytime cameras as well as thermal a little bit. And talking about patrols, all guns up. When an FPV is loitering around you, spinning around you, everybody should have their guns up. That is the most inherent threat to your life and your squad's life. You got to take that thing down, no matter what the situation is. And
so there you go. Priority, as soon as, if you're in a firefight, right, the first thing you do when you hear that bzzz of a drone, everybody guns up. That's obviously an SOP that this individual has been utilizing out there, where they would say to a troop, look, no matter what, if we hear a drone, guns up. That's an SOP, a standard operating procedure. It looks like that's what they're utilizing. It makes complete sense. One of them drones could take out a handful of lads. Easy. So it makes complete sense. Not only is it able to take out lads, it's able to give recce for people you're against. And so that information, which I've always spoke about on this channel, information is key on a battle. Information is the most important thing. And so the team with the most information is usually the one that wins. And so if you can prevent them from getting that information, brilliant.
In my opinion. So one easy way to react to a drone is get everybody's rifles up. You call up drone, everybody's rifle up. Try and shoot that thing down. Even if it's not a shotgun, it's better to have 20 guns in that thing instead of just one or two drone guards who have a shotgun or a rifle. Get everybody up, in the action, try and shoot that thing down. I'd
Practicing.
imagine that's probably a really good way. I've heard that the Russians do that a lot. A lot of our drones in particular were shot down by Russians. It is effective, and I definitely recommend that. The next thing is that while you're on a patrol, what are we taught as infantrymen? You should be looking around where you can dive into cover at any moment. That's one of the things that you do in a patrol. But one thing you should probably look for is where can you dart 50 meters away to get to a very hard piece of cover. Whether that's a house, a basement, a thick forest that you can run into. Forests are a great way to get away from drones. Yeah, you can still get hit. I mean, people get chased around in forests all the time, but it's very difficult. We only see the success clips, to be honest. We don't really see the failed FPV clips online. There's plenty of
that makes sense.
Chase them in forest and they hit a tree and then they're not able to reach their targets. So get inside there. It's going to slow down the time that the FPV can come, and you can actually outrun it, as well as be concealed from not only the Mavic that was watching you the entire time that called in the FPV, but also from the FPV itself. And
that makes sense, because when we do patrols and stuff like that in training or whatever, the goal is to always be aware of where you could run to if you get under fire, right? If someone starts shooting at you, where can you jump to? Where can you dive into? Where can you... But now you've got to think of two things. If you're getting shot at, where can you go for cover? And if you hear a drone, where can you go to prevent something from above your head? Having two things on your mind whilst also patrolling and looking about, yes, I get they're both kind of intertwined, right? If it's going to cover you from a drone, you're probably going to cover you from small arms fire as well. But it's a very interesting development in the way that people are thinking while out on patrol, in my opinion. These days, there's more variables that you've got to keep on your mind. You've got to keep these going all the time. They've got to be there. You've got to be thinking about them. You've got to be moving. You've got to be keeping an eye out for you and your mates. You've got to be looking at where you can go if there's small arms fire. You've got to be looking where to go if there's an FPV drone. You've got to be looking where to go if, you know, if you're getting shot on the left, on the right, behind you. How are you going to move? What's the movement going to be like? Is there going to be any bombs on the floor? So many more variables now. It's insane.
If you're in that forest and that FPV is still chasing you, find a big thick tree and hug it and try and use that as some bit of cover. Trees can stop bullets, and they can certainly stop shrapnel from an FPV. So last ditch effort, but find something that you can hide around. Find cover. Who would have thought? The next one I want to be very careful about saying is freezing. You see a lot of clips, especially from the Russians, where they freeze in contact with an FPV and then they get struck. Well, freezing is good in certain circumstances. If you can hear the drone, I would say don't freeze. They probably already see you and you just got to get to cover at that point. But if you suspect that there's a drone in the air, or if you're in the middle of a patrol crossing an LDA, a linear danger area, I would recommend freezing, making sure that while the rest of your team is moving, you don't move. That way you can react to that drone and they can't find you as easily. Train for denial.
That's a super interesting one, because it's a mix between deer in headlights while also using that to your tactical advantage. That's a very interesting one right there. That's where we're starting to see an adaptation of movement specifically to put off the drone, right? How can you utilize movement within your fire team or your troop to confuse the person flying that drone so you have a better opportunity to, one, not get blown up, but two, shoot it down? That is very interesting. I'd love to dive more into that. This is the little bit I love watching and analyzing CQB stuff, because it is very tactical. There's only so much tactics you can get out of your troop comes under fire. Peel left, peel right, you know, what formation you're in, blah, blah, blah. There's only so much you can do with that. CQB, there's a lot more variables and and stances and movements and objects, etc. Now with drones, this is a completely new subject of what does that movement look like, not only to prevent being blown up, but to confuse the drone so you've got a better opportunity of surviving and shooting it down. That is going to be a new tactic that I think we're going to start seeing quite often.
In deception, regularly rotate your positions and run exercises with your team that force them to operate without revealing their habitual patterns. So do long training scenarios where you have to stay out in the forest and not get observed and not get killed by this drone. If you're fighting in a war with drones, you probably have a friendly unit that can fly drones too, and they should be helping you train. By
100%.
Trying to find you. Train how you fight. Get drones inside those training scenarios. Medical.
Yeah, that's classic. That's training, right? You want to utilize what the enemy's doing against you so that you can get better at. This is very typical. This is what happens between countries and stuff like that.
Casualty preparedness. You gotta expect the worst. You should pre-position medkits in all of your squad. Where's the medkit? Everybody should know. TQ is the same. Rehearse casualty extraction, very, very important with drones. And learn how to do this with reduced visibility, without turning on a flashlight at nighttime.
This is SOPs. This is exactly what your fire team should be like. All right, everybody's going to have their med pack in their pouch on their right hip. It's going to have a clear label of a red cross on it. Simple as that. So that if the thing is, right, people don't realize this. People think that if your mate goes down, it's so you know where it is. That's not the case, right? It's if your mate goes down, you can use his stuff for him. That's what you want to be doing. People don't realize that. They think that, oh, you see a person down, where's my med kit? I'm going to help them. No, you want to be finding where their med kit is so that you can use their kit on them. Otherwise, if you go down and someone else has used their kit on someone else, and before you know it, no one's got a kit, right? So utilizing their kit on themselves, and this is why SOPs are so important. The whole fire team, the whole section needs to know exactly where the med kit is on every single individual. This is Bobby basic stuff, but it is incredibly effective.
Direct line with the EW support around you, the assets. Whether it's with your command or directly with them, you should know the available support in your AO. And you should know to call them and also find out their routines. When do they turn on the jammers for everybody in the area? There's usually a routine, and you should know that so that way you can make your movement. Record. Having a GoPro, you can find out how your squad reacts to this drone. You can learn what was effective, what wasn't, and you can pass it on to the TOC and the intel guys in the back. And better yet, if it doesn't have any munitions, say it's a Mavic or a bombing FPV that already dropped its bomb, recover it if you shoot it down. Recover it and give it to the intel guys. They'll be able to find out what frequency they're running on for that month. It's usually like the same unit that's using the same frequency for a month. And that's going to go a long way, not only for yourself, but for everybody around you. That way,
I think this is Bobby Basics. This is what's been utilized in other instances applied to drones, right? Firstly, recording of footage is massive because you can all sit down, you can watch that recording and be like, what the fuck did Joe Bloggs over here do wrong? What did John Smith do wrong here? What can we do better here? How can we be more effective here? Super, super important. And then obviously the recovering of equipment has been something that, you know, you do throughout time. Comms kit, weapons, etc. You want to be keeping an eye on what the enemy's using. If it's technology, obviously bring it in. If it's comms kit, probably the biggest score ever would be a comms kit, right? Like you want to be making sure you recover that gear and also preventing the enemy from getting that gear. And that's why you see lads specifically going back into a dangerous place to get a bit of equipment or to blow up a piece of their own equipment so the enemy can't get it. Bobby basic stuff right there.
The EW knows what to target, what frequency. Use decoys and dummy activity. Everybody in Ukraine knows that if you use a Harris radio, which has a very distinct radio frequency, yeah, it's encrypted, you can't tell what's being told on it, but it also creates a very unique signature. So you can use that as a decoy. You can set that up in a position far away from you, and then you make your movement while they're looking at this decoy, wondering, ooh, what's going on here? And they're gonna maybe even launch something big at it instead of you. Does that make sense? Decoys, think about it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see an advancement in different ways that decoys are used as well during Ukraine. Obviously, we've seen a massive advancement right now, but we're going to see different types of decoys. Physical, right? Like, oh, it looks like there's a person over there when actually they're over there, and if the bomb drops over there, then they can shoot the drone, whatever. But also things you can't see, like you said, frequency and stuff like that, like utilizing decoys within a field of technology that is not straight away visual, but is being utilized by the enemy, is going to be massive in the future as well.
The human mind. We're creative. Mask logistic movements. Resupply at night or undercover, dusk dawn. And also make sure that the timings of the convoys aren't predictable. And that goes for patrolling as well, infantry movements. You don't want to be predictable. As a Mavic pilot, we would look at an MSR knowing that the Russians did not learn. They always came at this time and they're going to be going down this place. Stagger it. When they went out to the field a week later, we didn't catch them until midway through. And they still got away because that EW backpack on them. So make it different for the operators. Make it different than what they're used to. Because they're going to react to the routine, not react to what they think you might do. Does it make sense?
I think that makes sense. That is, again, it's another Bobby basic that's applied to drones. We've got two different things here. We've got military tactics that we already know about and it's applied to drones. And then we've got new things that are coming out because of drones. And I think there's two very distinct things, but are two incredibly powerful things that can be utilized. Taking your abilities for something else and applying it to drones is, I think, is going to be the quickest, the most common thing that most soldiers would do. But then being creative, using that human creative mind to come up with new solutions like decoys through signaling and the different ways of movements to put off a drone. These are all new things. I'm more interested in the new things personally, but it is nice to see these Bobby basics being applied to drones. And again, we all know in the military, Bobby basics is king. Always go back to basics. It's king. It's always will be because it can be applied to so many different variables. So if you're good at the basics, you're going to be good at doing stuff like this because it can apply.
Sense? And going on with that, plan alternate routes and fallback positions. Never move along a single predictable trek. You should have prepped, safe locations with water, food, enough room to keep a team inside it. You should have these prepped or know where they are. Ask your leadership, ask the units around you before you go there. That way you know you can go there if the worst happens. Have a drone guard. You should always have an early lookout. Somebody's looking at the sky when you can't even hear it. Vision goes further than hearing, and you can find these drones down in the sky before you can hear them. So always have 1 or 2 people in your squad, constantly observing, so you have the earliest detection of these things. Limit.
That is super interesting. This goes into the category of a new thing. You're using a member of your fire team or troop specifically as drone guard, right? So it might be like we have a sentry. So like when you create a FOB, like a forward operating base, and you have sentries, now we're going to have designated drone guards, which is a very, very interesting thing, and is a new thing where they might not sit in the corners of your makeshift base. They're not going to sit in positions where people could walk up on you or fire. They might be sat smack bang in the middle, or they might be sat with the people, but they're not looking forward at the tree line. They're not looking forward at that building over there where there could be the enemy. They're now looking in the sky specifically. That's a new tactic that's very interesting. Dedicating manpower to that as well means that you would have to prioritize that over what that individual will be doing with something else. That individual might be, let's say you've got let's say you're doing a recce, right? And you're doing an OP, and the classic tactic for an OP is if you can have 3 of you, it's amazing, especially for a long-term OP, because one will be eyes on, one will be taking notes, and one will be getting their head down or cooking or doing something like that, right? Sometimes it's usually 2 people where it's 1 person on lookout and 1 person taking notes or getting their head down sleeping, so that there's like a switch between the 2. But now we're going to have it where potentially it's 1 person looking forward, maybe 1 person taking notes while also keeping eyes in the sky. Drone guard. Very interesting.
Electronic emissions and be deliberate with radios. This is a big one. We're taught in the military, but it's even more important today. Broadcast only when you're needed. Use short bursts and follow comms discipline to avoid creating locational cues. They can triangulate you. Use natural...
Comms discipline's key. You don't want to be on the comms cracking jokes. It's time and a place for that. You can do it on a night out, on a run ashore. Comms have to be clear at all time unless needed. Bobby basics. And also, you shouldn't be doing stuff like taking your phone out, smartwatches, all this other stuff. You don't need that stuff. That's, again, time and a place for you to scroll Instagram and look at girls shaking the butts, right? Like, here we're doing the Bobby basics. We're staying comms free unless needed, and we're not using electronics. Therefore, you're reducing your signature.
Terrain for masking. No different from the patrol techniques that I got 10 years ago in the Marine Corps. Use ridge lines. Use folds in the ground. Use buildings blind sides for approach and exfil. Use the terrain around you. It can help you, even if the drone is looking at you from a 45-degree angle. Laying in the prone can help a lot. You should have camouflage on your position. If you're in a static position, you should be camouflaging everything. You shouldn't be throwing trash everywhere. You shouldn't have the generator uncovered. You shouldn't be leaving stuff outside. You should have everything packed away, everything camouflaged as much as
Camouflage discipline. Bobby basics again, but it applies to the sky now.
possible, because that's what a drone looks for. They're looking for signs of life. Keep light discipline. Said it a million times before. Just don't turn on the flashlight. And that is just about everything I want to say.
Light discipline's a big one. If you're working at night, use red lights because it doesn't travel as far. But yeah, light discipline's massive. We would do stuff like if we had a light, we'd shine it through our thumb to look at a map real close if we really need to. Light discipline's massive. You don't want to be seen. Again, Bobby Basics, why things are seen. Silhouettes, light, movement, horizon, all these different things.
A million ways to go and counter these things. And not one of them is going to save your life. It's the whole bunch. Complacency kills. And that's how drone operators like myself back in the day would find people. That's how we would kill people, was complacency, not following these rules that they already knew. So be attentive, keep everybody in your team in check, and just follow the rules. Follow the rules, you know what to do, and drones will pounce if you give just 2 seconds of complacency to them. Do you understand? I hope you do. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Absolutely fantastic video. And just to go off at the end there, what he was saying, it's an amalgamation of using these tools in your toolbox. You should be looking at all these things and utilizing as many as you can within a certain scenario. That has got to be by Civdiv right there. That has to be the best video I've seen on the internet talking about drones. That is by far the best one I've seen on the internet. And it's not even close. We've seen a lot of people talking about drones, but someone who's got the experience like this individual, former Marine, he's been out into Ukraine with drones. Him talking about this experience and how it shifted the battle, that is, like, I've got goosebumps on how good that was and how different this is to see on YouTube. I recommend going over to Civdiv on his YouTube channel, link down below. Please go subscribe to his channel because that was phenomenal. Check out Jug, 10% off, link down below. And also, go buy yourself a can of morale. Links are here and here. It is now available. We've been working on this for nearly 2 years. Go and get it. I just moved all the camera and everything because I'm slamming on the desk. I'm excited. Other than that, I love you all. Stay safe. Goodbye.